or from council who's gone through, they do that? Okay.
Yeah. Most included in their scope of services.
Right.
Sure, we picked a firm, we'll hand it off to them, and they'll take it from there.
School boards, I can't get over this. Can you get us some of these?
I'll try.
They're great.
I got that all time.
Yeah, it's like 6 years old, but I mean, I almost have it memorized. Okay, so we're moving forward. Nothing else on the agenda. I do need a motion for executive session.
Can I move to adjourn?
You can.
I move to adjourn.
Have an answer to my question?
I'm not responding to all the questions.
I'm sorry. Yes, you're right, I'm sorry.
I withdraw my motion.
Can you get a second?
I can answer that one.
Okay, yeah, please.
Mr. Sage, as to your question, Mr. Quirk properly redirected your request to me, so it's been in my hands since then. I have recently received the information in response to that request, and I'll be reaching out to you shortly.
Thank you.
Didn't Gloria have a question?
One second. Question.
Somebody had a question. Oh, Mr. Sarelnik asked regarding when the final budget implementation, taking into account all of the state cuts and everything else, is going to be finalized. You want to take that?
Sure. I believe your question was around what has been cut from the proposed budget. That list was at that presentation. It's also available on our website. As I'm sure you know, after the budget vote, if the budget should be defeated, it moves to the municipalities collectively to take a look at it at that point. So the reductions in the budget are part of the budget presentation, and all of that information is on our website.
I have a point of order, I think. I live in the borough, and we got a little newsletter from the borough Board of Ed about what's going on. Do you know when the one from the high school is coming out?
Thursday is being, what was that?
It's going to come over this week.
Yeah, the dilemma we had was, believe it or not, during the spring break, and you got a communication from Mr. Boyce, the first week of the spring break, the state decided after our budget to take another $1 million, Mr. Boyce.
Yeah, actually,
Maybe you
I
should
can just comment on that.
explain that so the public knows what happened.
And the board was, I did address a memo to you on this, but just to refresh your memory, one of the base assumptions that we had was the availability of extraordinary aid, which is an item of state aid. And based on my initial conversations with different people at the DOE, I didn't have full confidence that that would be ultimately available in the state budget. Subsequently, I had conversations with the county office and got some better assurances on that. So what we did was we reduced the proposed tax levy by $1 million and assumed that we were going to receive that extraordinary aid by $1 million. So there's still an assumption of a little bit more risk there because the state budget isn't finalized yet, and it's going through that process. But that's a risk that I think we're willing to take at this point.
And then subsequently lowered the tax rate.
Lower the tax rate.
Very significant, though.
Yeah, several tenths of a penny per town. But that information, again, will be in the newsletter and is also posted on our website.
Can I ask a question? Have you heard back from any of the unions that we reached out to on?
Yeah, I have, and I basically put it in for executive session because it's negotiations. Some, and again, correct me, counsel, if I'm incorrect on this, but since some of these groups are in negotiations, I didn't think that would be appropriate for public. But I did receive communications from almost all. Just to refresh again, Mr. Lawson and myself and Mr. Boyce met with the presidents of the associations and asked them to consider a wage freeze. I then wrote them a letter during the spring break asking them to respond in writing, and I have that for you this evening. But because some of the negotiations are open, it would be appropriate to discuss that in public. Is that correct? Okay. Thank you.
executive.
Not yet, we still have questions to answer.
You didn't answer mine.
We answer mine too.
Okay, Mrs. Fox, refresh my memory, I'm sorry. What was your...
First of all, I do want to ensure that this committee is free of bias, which would mean nobody has any relatives working for the district who's going to be on the committee to...
The law will be followed, Mrs. Fox. And if it's against the law, then certainly no one will sit. If it is not, then someone will
What
sit.
looks good too.
Well, we follow the law. Thank you.
And sometimes it's what looks good. And also Robert's rules of order. And recognizing questions that are addressed.
Well, I think, Mrs. Fox, you have to realize that Robert's Rules is an underlying guideline for how we run our meetings. We have accepted Robert's Rules. However, we can override them with our own policies and procedures.
Do you have that in writing?
Absolutely.
Can I get a copy of it?
Look in the policy manual, it's online. And that is what we have done. Excuse me, please. You started off with a question you didn't ask before, but, you know, I'm trying to be as accommodating as possible. We can modify beyond Robert's Rules the procedures that we use in our meetings. Those procedures have been in effect for years, that questions are addressed through the chair and then distributed to the individual best qualified to answer them. And the reason, very simply, is we don't need back and forth dialogue between individual board members. And that's
But
what...
then they don't seem to be trickled down, is my problem.
I try not to answer any questions. I always send them to somebody. Very often, the best person to answer a question is an administrator, an employee of the district. And, you know, unfortunately, I'm going to put it right on the line, unfortunately, when you hand it over to a board member, you're going to get politicking. And that doesn't do anybody any good.
Is everyone on the board aware that Robert's Rules of Order are not followed to the T?
Sir, Mrs. Fox, Robert's Rules of Order is followed. If you have a provision that you think we are violating, show me that in Robert's Rules of Order. There's no provision in Robert's Rules of Order that we have violated. All right? If you know of something, I'd be very happy to look at it for you. But nothing has been violated. But if you know something, I'd be happy to examine it.
Thank you.
Let me just ask a procedural question. I understand, for convenience, the compromise at the last meeting was to have one public session for 4 minutes. But by having the public session before the agenda meeting, we lose the ability to make comments afterwards about things that we might hear.
The whole thing is in a state of flux, obviously. We've been bouncing around trying to find a good working procedure. It's still alive, and, you know, we'll nail it down. And, you know, we have the infinitesimal wisdom of Solomon up here, no more than anybody else. And we'll keep trying things, and we'll get it right eventually. I hope. This is close.
My last question, the search for the superintendent was answered. How about the search for the principal of Marlboro and about the replacement of the Carrick Law firm?
All other, I mean, we are faced with a unique situation now, replacing the superintendent. That is a position of such impact that the board gets involved earlier, we want the public involved earlier, because we want to get it right. However, other positions within the district and other contractors that work for the district are going to be handled the same way they always have.
Right.
Unless someone with educational expertise comes to us and says there's a better way. So, as of now, that's where it
How
is.
about the law firm, Mr. Wilson?
They're a contractor for the firm.
Pardon me? Pardon me, sir? I didn't hear you.
They're a contractor for, I'm sorry, a contractor for the board. I said a contractor for the firm. They are a contractor for the board.
Professional appointments are made annually in accordance with the requirements of the Public Contracts Law, and we'll be doing that at the reorganization meeting.